Warning! This episode contains depictions of graphic violence, sexual violence, bad battle tactics, very erotic sword flirting, and as always, teen angst. Also, there will be spoilers for chapter 53 through the end of Eragon, book 1 of the Inherent Cycle by Christopher Paolini. Listen at your own risk.
Is this a podcast, or is this just fantasy? We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. So join us if you want to nerd out. Time to start the podcast and see. Anyway, here's the show.
Hello, readers. I'm Dane Patterson, the host who would totally trust those nice twins. I mean, they're just so generous and kind with their information. I would totally join their club.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, God. And I'm Jacqui Lanier, and is this a podcast or is this just fantasy? The podcast where I cannot keep up with our flip-flopping takes on twins.
If you'd like to support us on Patreon, there's a link in the show notes. If you can or just don't want to, we totally understand and just ask that you please rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, and somehow for the final time this season, I'll ask you to visit us at isthisjustfantasypod.com, a website that I made where you can find every episode of this first season, some fun facts about Dane and I, pictures of our faces, and of course, never forget the merch we made so that you can buy it now that you're totally hooked on our show.
It's really good. You did a good job.
Thank you. I love it. So on the last episode, we made it to Farthen Door, which I've been excited about truly since I cracked the first page of this book.
You could not stop talking about it.
No, I love the Dwarven City. It's incredible. So I do want to do a little recap of what we covered getting to Farthen Door before we embark on this final section of Eragon.
The end.
Yes. So the last section of chapters kicked off with the end of the Sword Bros' mad dash through the valley to reach the Vardens' hidden mountain lair. And the stakes truly could not be higher here.
Some might say the stakes are entirely too high, Jackie.
Fair. That's fair. Okay. But I will be damned if it's not exciting. Like, for all that it's truly impossible, it's a good time.
My heart is still beating. No, it's so fast.
Yeah, we talked to your doctor about that. So they have literally an impossible distance to cover to get the antidote for Durza's poison before it kills Arya. They're being chased by hundreds of bloodthirsty Urgal super soldiers. Murtagh needs to find an escape valve before he gets stuck with the Varden, and the horses should arguably be dead already.
Yeah.
And that's the condition upon which they're sprinting to the Varden's lair. But for once, Kevin manages not to nearly kill himself with magic long enough to hold the Urgals off, make it to the secret waterfall door, and after almost drowning under said waterfall, Eragon's plucked from the depths by a dwarf named Oric, who roused the Varden to come out onto the porch to save Saphira's sword bros and send the Urgals running. So,
hell yeah.
Yes. So other members of the greeting committee include a bunch of battle-scarred soldiers and the baldest, blatantest asshole we've met thus far, I think.
Yeah.
I think he takes a cake over Sloane for me.
I think he might be worse than Sloane, yeah.
A little bit. So this guy doesn't have a name, which is weird as fuck, but he's pissed at Oric for coming to help, and absolutely he's unwilling to let our crew into the Varden's domain unless they all submit to like brutal mind magic exam, even though Arya's truly on death's door. Like, she does not have a minute to spare, and he's like, no. We got to talk first.
It's the Patriot Act, but worse.
Yes, it's truly psychotic. Eragon gets his mind invaded long enough to get them all like through the threshold and to get Arya to a healer. But Murtagh shows some serious mental prowess by not allowing that bald prick into like a fraction of his consciousness, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, he kicks him out.
Yes, dude. So as he just revealed to Eragon, he's the reason he's keeping his mind on absolute lockdown. He just revealed to Eragon he's actually Morzan, the first Forsworn's son.
No.
Yes. Dane, I don't know why you're surprised. We talked about this last week. Anyway, he knows that would be a huge problem for him if he went into the Varden, no matter how much he hated his dad and hates Galbatorix and proves himself to be a loyal rebel. Like, no one's going to care. But our crew, and more importantly, their poor horses, are finally safe enough for a night of sleep, and they pass the fuck out in the Varden's like entryway in the lobby.
You could say those horses were dead tired.
They were truly dead. I think they're zombie horses now. I've got questions. So the next day, that bald asshole is still just being the worst. But it looks like even with Murtag's like refusal to comply here, like,
or maybe because of it, who wouldn't be intrigued by
you
that?
think they have as big a crush on Murtag as you do? That's your working theory?
I'm just saying. He is who he is.
That's fair. Okay, so that could be it. But whether it's the mysterious brooding teen or the first new rider and his dragon, the crew's being summoned to meet with Ajahad, the leader of the Varden. One of those two things, Dane.
That
Not
might
sure which
be
one.
a part of it.
On their way into the mountain fortress, Auric is nice enough to let us know Arya is not dead, but the healers are still working on her. So like TBD if she's going to be totally fine or just like alive. And this is where my little fantasy kid brain like reaps all the rewards for those kind of dumpy travel chapters because our crew and their like entourage captors,
Who can say?
TBD, they make their way deeper into this massive mountain before stopping at a set of gargantuan ornate doors flanked by intricate stonework pillars studded with precious gems. And they enter the city of Trondheim under Farthen Dur. And I cannot say this enough. I'm going to keep saying it.
Yeah.
Trondheim is the coolest. I love it. It's an ungodly huge, preternaturally beautiful city inside of a volcanic crater with the universe's biggest sapphire suspended in the air at its pinnacle. It's absolutely wild. I want to go so bad. I'm schwitzing.
Okay, really quickly, this is not on any of our plan talks, but like our producer Kevin can tell you that she spent a good 10 minutes explaining to me just exactly how this looked before we did this episode.
That's correct.
That's how much she loves it.
You needed to know. And I do like Eragon is me here being like full Harry Potter level, like, I love magic. When he sees the city, it's just as cool to him as it is to me. And as he makes his way through Trondheim, like as a fun little bonus, all the human and dwarven residents of the city are like lining the walkways to make their entrance a whole ass parade. It's a good time.
It's pretty cool.
I know you love a parade, Dane.
I'm a big
Seen
parade
you
man.
at Disneyland.
Yeah.
The last episode section ended with Eragon, Murtag, and Saphira making it through the city and into Ajahad's study. And if we thought you were obsessed with like Brahm and Murtag, Ajahad might be on a whole extra level here because, hear me out, the rebel leader has all the gravitas and experience of Brahm, but he's still a certified hottie. He's Brahm, but hot.
You're right. I'm intrigued.
And he's like kind but shrewd in his first interactions with our crew, which I love. We find out kind of a lot about him here. He gets Eragon to tell the entire story of what's happened to him up until this point with like a couple tiny exceptions.
Yeah.
And he gives us a quick download of like the dwarves, the elves, the Varden, like where all the different rebel factions stand. And he also knows who Murtag is, but he respects Murtag's decision not to let the twins mind assault him.
Oh, yeah. It turns out that there are two bald assholes, and one was too many.
Yeah, dude. Yes, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But Ajahad is impressed by Murtag's assertiveness, and it seems like he regrets having to leave Murtag in captivity. So he's like tough but fair, like every great pseudo daddy should be. So we left off last time right after our combo with Ajahad. I'm ready to get back into it. Are you?
Dude!
Last one?
We're in the last one!
I can't believe it.
This is one. Yeah! Hell yeah! We got crowds streaming. This is Trondheim
Canned applause.
Right here. Yeah, canned applause. I love it. It's the best kind of applause. Thanks for reading this with me, man.
You're welcome.
I've had fun doing this.
Yeah, it's been a really good time.
How are you feeling going into our last recaps of season 1?
Dude, I kind of can't believe we made it. I'll admit.
Looks like we made it. I can't believe we made it either. I can't believe we made it either.
So I've been thinking, like, I'll admit, like, by nature, I'm the kind of person who is very happy under any circumstance to dive way too deep into a children's fantasy book. But like putting stuff together for this podcast, taking that level of deep dive was just like a fully different experience here. I think maybe you've talked about feeling a similar way.
Yeah.
That like taking a hard look at this book, like really picking it apart and analyzing it, it kind of gives you a different appreciation for it than I had before, certainly.
Yeah.
I've had a good time, I guess, confronting like some of the weaknesses here head on, because I've definitely realized that they don't stop me from loving these characters, loving this world, and still being so impressed by everything Christopher Paolini was able to do with this story. And that, for me, I guess, is something that feels impressive for anyone to have done at any age, much less as young as he was when he wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think he's pretty amazing. I feel the same way. I mean, you know this about me. I read too much into everything about everyone all of the time.
That's correct.
Yeah. It's a sickness. And I was worried that this would be like ruin the book for me too.
Yeah.
But much like you, I agree. I think this made me love it more. And I also had a lot of fun going on the ride. This was just a good time.
Yeah.
And for me, part of this book is connected to my childhood and my love of reading and all that. And doing this with you has kind of made another touch point with the story in my adult life and a celebration of like my love for reading. It's kind of kooky. It's kind of like, overly romantic. But as a kid who struggled to learn to read, and it was like a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And this little podcast and our little amateur attempt at a deep dive, or my amateur attempts at a deep dive, fill me with pride. I know that everyone and their mother has a podcast right now, and maybe it's because it's so fun hanging with your friends and hanging with Kevin.
Yes. Do you think our moms are going to start a podcast? They're friends.
I would.
It won't be about fantasy books, but I would listen to it.
Probably about their two kids doing a podcast.
Now that would be meta. That's somebody write that down. Keep that idea.
Yeah, I think I've had fun exploring stuff with you. It's been great, and if you have been with us the whole time, I just want to say thank you, and I hope that it has improved your experience of Eragon and maybe your just love of the genre, and if not, maybe like
that'd be the dream, dude. That's a high watermark.
Yeah, if not that high, like maybe just like it made you smile a few times, or maybe it a hard day nice, or something like that.
Yeah, I could totally see that. That's so nice. Somehow it feels almost impossible to believe that like anyone would put up with us talking about this for so long, aside from our partners who like sometimes do not put up with us talking about this specific thing for as long as we do. That's why we talk to each other about it.
Yeah, they're so nice. They're so lovely people.
Oh my God, they're truly, truly angels. But like intellectually, I know we aren't alone in this like unabashed nerding out.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for any of the people who are here with us. I'm excited to talk about the way this first installment of Eragon wraps up, because there's obviously some fun stuff in these like last few chapters. Are you ready to get down to chapter summaries?
Yeah, for the last time. Let's get into the chapter summaries.
Don't mind me. I'll just be over here screaming with excitement, apparently, into a microphone. What a thing to do.
All right. Well, we have 7. Here's one. Chapter 53. Bless the child, Ashidlam.
I'm so glad that voice is contagious.
Eragon starts this chapter hanging out with his new escort, Auric.
Love it.
Yeah, and he learns that Auric got what he wanted, and Ajahad was really clever, like politically, because Auric wanted to show him around. And
This is in reference to what Ajahad did at the end of the last
because
section,
Ajahad
right?
punished him, quote unquote.
Yes, okay.
And, that made sense to the chain of command through the Varden, and at the same time, it got him a job as a dwarf. It's a complicated political situation, Jacqui.
Yes, but Ajahad finessed that shit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's telling. I've got thoughts about that.
Yeah, and just before I continue, you're going to hear a little bias because Auric is without a doubt one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
So we're going to, I love him. So Auric tells Eragon that there are other magic users under the mountain, but they aren't as powerful as the twins, and all of them were needed to heal Arya. The twins are nasty, but they're only really good in battle. So they're very useful.
So it seems like from what we get from Auric, like everybody seems to hate these guys, not just us. Like,
oh yeah, I even get the sense that like Ajahad's like, yeah, they're around from the last guy. We're just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're like useful, but I like kind of pinches his nose and puts up with it, kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Auric shows Saphira to the Riders' Hold, which is also really cool, a place where riders of old used to stay at the top of the mountain.
Yes.
That is accessed only through flying up through the Grand Hall.
Yes.
Saphira gets to pick her own cave.
It's a room full of dragon caves, Dane.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Eragon stays behind to eat with Auric, and he's pretty stereotypically like classic fantasy dwarf, just for context. But he's very funny and very kind. Seems like a total bro. Auric explains to Eragon that Trondheim cannot supply itself, and that the above-ground dwarven cities supply the city under the mountain. Most of Trondheim is abandoned and runs the entire length of the mountain range of the Bior Mountains. And it is very important for the dwarfs. Even though it's such a drain on the resources, it can hold the entirety of all of the dwarven people within this dwarven city. There are we get some numbers, some like hard numbers here. There are only 4,000 Varden soldiers in the city under the mountain. And most of the Varden are actually in Serda under the protection of the Serdan king.
So we heard rumors about that, but this is kind of confirmation here that like, okay, yes, Serda in a big way is actually supporting.
Yeah. Apparently that's true. So anyway, the royal army of Galbatorix, we get some numbers from him finally, is 16,000 soldiers strong.
It seems a little mismatched.
It does seem a little mismatched, and that's not counting any Urgles.
Oh, because that's kind of on the hush-hush still writ large. So like,
the Empire
they're not being like counted in the army rolls.
There are many dwarves ready, as well as the elves, and Serda would help if they were to fight. So there's a lot more than it seems, but we don't have a specific picture. But already it seems like the Varden are just outmatched by just the bare bones Empire stuff.
Yeah.
Ulrich also explains that he is a member of Dormgrimst Ingitum.
Yes?
Yeah, that's how you have to say it. You can't say it any other way.
I'll do my best, but truly no promises.
A clan that specializes in smithing, and apparently Smith was already taken as a clan name. Anyway, the clan symbol is a hammer surrounded by 12 stars, and the current Dwarven King Hrothgar, is of the Dormgrimst Ingitum. And the very first king, Krogan, right, was also of Dormskrimt Ingitum. So it's a pretty good clan.
Okay, and it matters to them, to the dwarves. I mean that like the king is from one clan or another. Like, does that give that clan kind of like...
It seems like it gives them some political sway.
Cool.
And it seems like Dormskrimt Ingitum is like the one.
What is?
Dormskrimt Ingitum.
Oh,
You're
I
so
didn't know
right.
at all what you were talking about.
That's my
Wow.
bad. Just got a little lazy there. As they walk around and Eragon's getting like this dwarven history lesson, the dwarves that pass him call him Ajitlam, the elven word for silver hand, and bow to him. Eragon, I've always wondered this. Why don't they call him the dwarven equivalent? Why use the elven language? Is it because it's ancient language?
Yeah, I think maybe like the implications of the ancient language being like the language of true words or true names in a way. Like
he truly is Ajitlam.
Yes,
the
like
most true
the
thing.
essence of silver and the essence of hand somehow. And it's like, you can just call him Silver Hand.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I'd be like, hey, what's up, Sylvie?
Well, you'll be happy to know, Jacqui. Eragon finally takes a bath and gets new clothing.
Oh, dude, it's about time. Could you imagine? Like, teens are already a little like dicey. Eragon at this point, after the traveling, after just the sheer terror of like weeks on end, can you imagine stress sweat from a teen?
I mean, also sitting on all that horse flesh the whole time.
Ugh. No, dog.
Yeah. Well, Saphir comes to get him as the only way up is a giant staircase called the Endless Staircase.
Super cool.
This is to go to the Dragon Hold after he's showered or bathed. It is so large and high, it's not practical to go up and down it. So they use lanterns and light signals to communicate up and down the city mountain, which is so cool. And in order to get down in a quick way, if there was like an emergency, there's a dangerous slide made for Dwarven-sized people.
That's right.
And you can slide down a mountain-side sliced slide.
It's so cool, Dana. No apologies ever. Sorry, not sorry for my love of all things Trondheim. Why did they have to make it so cool?
It's so cool. And it's like, it's so different than anything we've gotten here. It's like really refreshing. Saphira lands and a crowd comes out. And here's something strange happened. Eragon is asked to give a blessing to a baby by an old woman.
Yeah, regular politician shit.
And I laugh so hard because he first said to her, "What do you want?" Like, he's like, "What do you want, old lady?"
Yeah.
Just like, "Hey, old lady, what the hell?"
That's so funny. Yeah, I think he's described like right as frightened.
Yes.
Like, LOL, mighty dragon rider.
He's like killing Cole, but he's like, "Hey, back off."
Hey, I'm kind of scared of you. You're old.
I don't know, but it made me chuckle. I don't know. He decides to do this.
The blessing?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever heard of a blessing so far, and I think we knew Brom was famously cursed, so I guess blessing should exist. I really don't know.
The only thing I can really think of is like, I guess we saw Brom give like a deathbed blessing to Eragon, and then we also saw Garrow give like a formal kind of blessing to Roran before he leaves town.
Right.
But I definitely didn't get the sense that either of those was magical in any way. Like, I don't know. Who's to say? There's no way to find this information out.
No, there's no.
Definitely don't listen to the next season of our podcast.
No, there's no way to know.
To figure out what blessings are like. What happens, Dane?
Well, anyway, he uses the ancient language, and Saphira touches the baby on the forehead. And this gives the baby a silver star on her head and made Eragon feel like he had used magic. So it for sure somehow worked.
Yeah.
And Eragon said the blessing in the ancient language, so I do not know what it means yet. There is no translations of that.
Yes, I liked that as a touch. Like, I remember I was kind of shocked on the reread to go back and be like, oh shit, we just have no idea what he did.
Just don't know.
Crazy.
But I'm sure that will not come up again, so there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, moving
Probably
along,
a waste
Dane.
of time. We'll probably just take it out of the podcast.
Smart.
Eragon gets homesick and sad. He doesn't like the mountains and the confines of the tunnels. He's a forest boy. And he also expresses his stress at the responsibilities he has and the need for him to talk with kings and elves. And I totally feel this. I wish we saw more of this throughout the book. This is something I've been talking about kind of extensively. It makes Eragon feel more real, even if we just got more of this doubt in like a singular thought process. You know what I mean? He also reflects that he was trained by a writer and dueled a shade and seems stressed by it all. So Saphira expresses that he should feel lucky and not down.
She's a toxic optimist.
Yeah.
She's one of those like toxic positivity people.
Bro, it could be worse.
Just look on the bright side.
Bro.
If you just like think positive, you'll be positive.
What you put out in the world is what you get back, Eragon.
Said the dragon.
Yes. Right? And there it ends as they land in the dragon hold, which sounds really cool, to be honest.
Dane, really cool? Really cool. Dane, this dragon hold is on top of the freaking star sapphire, pride of the dwarves, Isidar Mithrim. They're drooling in their sleep on top of a priceless gemstone, and all we get from you is really cool. Are you fucking kidding me? I can't with you. I'm moving on before you can continue to malign Trondheim with your indifference. I'm
sorry.
You should be. How? Okay. Just no. Okay. I have to move on.
Kevin, help me.
Don't help.
You're on your own.
Thank you, Kevin. So that does take us to chapter 54, Mandrake Root and Newt's Tongue. That sounds yummy dinner.
Like a Harry Potter
Are we
chapter.
having that when we head out?
Yeah, just some Mandrake Root Newt's Tongue.
Yeah.
Classic Colorado fare.
So this chapter opens actually with like a big change of pace as Eragon reflects that he's feeling secure, hopeful, warm, and fed. All things I don't think he's been familiar with since he was living with his rich friend Jode in Tyrm.
Yeah.
Like, he has really been lacking. But speaking of things from Tyrm, as Eragon gets out of bed the next morning, the werecat Solumbum is just like chilling in the dragon hold, waiting for him, actually. Eragon follows the cat to an apartment where Angela's taken up residence here in Trondheim. Eragon and Angela do like a little like gossip about what they've both been up to and like who's dead. And Eragon is rightfully a little pissed at Angela for having laughed at Brom's fate when she told Eragon's fortune. So
I actually didn't like Angela on my first read through because it was only this book, first off. And I just was like, he was so nice.
Yeah. I guess to defend herself, she gives us a little more information about Brom. And I know we said Brom Watch 2023.
Brom Watch 2023.
I know we said our watch had ended, but I miss that guy and I like any new tidbits we get about him. So I'm going to read what she says. Okay. Angela says, quote, "In retrospect, it was in rather bad taste, but I didn't know what would befall him. how do I put this? Brom was cursed in a way. It was his weird to fail at all of his tasks except one, although through no fault of his own. He was chosen as a rider, but his dragon was killed. He loved a woman, but it was his affection that was her undoing. And he was chosen, I assume, to guard and train you. But in the end, he failed at that as well. The only thing he succeeded at was killing Morzan, and a better deed he couldn't have done. End quote. So apparently Brom's famous. We've been talking about, or had been talking about when he was alive, womp womp. But we had been talking about how Brom was famous, and it was like a little weird. I guess he's just famous for being a walking tragedy among magic users.
I know, it's just sad as it's just sad AF. I know, it's sad as fuck. It's sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. Also, is that like a sick burn from Angela being like, I guess he was chosen to train you, and clearly that didn't work.
Well, I like that she's apologizing, and in the apology, she's like also throwing in just like an extra. And I guess she was supposed to take care of you, but he
Look
fucking
at
died.
you, you're a mess.
I know.
Like,
it's like, what?
Dude.
God.
So yeah, it's a little weird, but she does talk to us about Brom, and I think we can never really pour enough out for our guy Brom.
Never
He
enough.
really got the short end of the stick here. But Angela changes the subject. She's just like, enough about that. To explain that, like, through her witchy voodoo, she knew the Varden's egg must have hatched. And she and Solemnbum wanted to be in Trondheim to get the deets on the new rider when they, like, came through to meet the new besties. So after hearing everything that's happened to Eragon since Tyrm, she seems the most worried about Durza after all of this. And she has I think it's interesting, she has like a deep hatred of shades. And I know you're going to get a little into, I know you prepped some stuff for the specifics we learned from her about shades later, but I'll just say she casually drops the info that she's apparently incredibly old, incredibly powerful, and well respected in the magical community, which is not, I mean, we didn't get a ton about Angela's like connections to the world before this, so it's kind of interesting to see. She's so well respected apparently that she gets to bypass the twins like mind rapey security screening at the door of Trondheim. So I'm like, well, she's the lucky one here. And she, like everybody else, as she's talking about this, definitely gets the ick from the twins and is like low-key hiding from them and their secret magic society in Trondheim. So we end this chapter in classic Angela fashion, where she just abruptly kicks Eragon out and he heads back up to the Dragonhold.
Chapter 55, Hall of the Mountain King. When Erica wakes, what have I done? When Eragon wakes the next day, he's escorted to Auric, and Saphira talks him into wearing Zarok. He like doesn't want to wear it at first because people know that it's Morzan's sword.
Oh, okay.
So they fly down to the city mountain base. Auric expresses that the king Hrothgar wants to meet with Eragon in the throne room privately to show respect.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. It is really cool. Like like the Dwarven guards pound the floor when he enters.
Yes.
The throne room has a black throne at its end and a huge hall filled with 41 statues of kings of old.
This is an appropriate level of enthusiasm, Dane.
Yeah. I mean,
for the setting.
We learn that all of the old statues are the old king's coffins with stone statues of their likeness on top.
Cool.
And sitting on the throne at the far end is this very, very old king. This king is metal as fuck. He's wearing chainmail and a giant hammer's in his hand. It's so cool.
He's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's
10 out of 10 for Hrothgar. I love Auric so much already, kind of like you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, can we just only meet dwarves from now on?
Yeah, the dwarves
all the ones we've met are very fun.
They seem cool as hell.
Yeah.
And Hrothgar, I always get the image of like, I don't know if you've ever seen old school D&D art, but there's a lot of like old like 1970s, 1960s like white bearded like short like doors with like the classic horn helmets.
Oh, okay.
For whatever reason, I've always pictured Hrothgar as one of those guys.
I love that.
Yeah. So anyway, Hrothgar explains that the reason it's taken him time to meet with Eragon is because some of the clans, the Dwarven clans, wanted Eragon sent out of the mountain city, and he had to work that out politically.
Interesting.
Yeah, before he could meet with Eragon and Saphira. And I guess things aren't all rosy here. So like Eragon needs to watch out because what I'm getting the subtext here is that Hrothgar, is the king, but like it's kind of like a Senate thing I'm getting. Like the clans probably all have some power. We
Okay.
don't know a lot, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna make some assumptions
Well,
here.
yeah, if it was that big of a deal for a king who usually, like Galbatorix, if he's any example here,
Right.
Usually a king's going to be an absolute ruler, and
Right.
Hrothgar clearly has to contend with factions
Yeah,
in his society to get, it sounds like kind of anything done.
Yeah,
Like,
it took 2 days.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it was easy
No.
either, right? So Hrothgar explains that he is old, even by Dwarven standards, and remembers the fall of the Riders about 100 years ago.
Yeah.
He even spoke with Vrail. That's the last leader of the
crazy.
Riders, which is dope. The one that got kicked in the balls.
Yes. Yes, that guy. And then beheaded.
Yeah, it's not great. He mentioned 2 things which are interesting, that he remembered how the Dragon Riders meddled and all the politics around the world,
Okay.
but also that the world was a much safer place because of it. It's kind of like this, watch out, it wasn't all great from what you've heard.
Yeah.
But also it was better. After asking why Eragon comes to the dwarves, he asks what both him and Saphira are going to do now other than rest. They express being like against Galba. They're like, well, I mean, we're not for Galbatorix.
You know, the genocide guy will oppose him. And it's like, damn, just let them quit their jobs for a second. They're just taking like a little gap year.
And I have to say, Jackie, now that I've seen these leaders, Ajahad and Hrothgar, I know that Gal's a bad guy.
Oh, you know now. You're not just like, I'm just asking some questions.
Yeah, I'm not asking questions anymore. I asked a
Wow.
lot of questions. I gathered information. I took the evidence. And then I made some decisions.
I'm impressed. That's very mature of you, Dane.
And it only took 53 chapters, but I think Gal's the bad
53
guy.
53 chapters, 10 episodes, probably close to 12 hours of recorded content.
Yeah. And
Incredible.
I think I know it now.
Congratulations.
Thank
you did
you.
it.
So Hrothgar asks if Eragon wants to take over, if he can defeat Galbatorix, and when Eragon says no, he indicates there's no way.
Yeah.
That it's a good thing, as ageless people should not be kings.
Says the very, very old.
Yeah, I get the impression
Ruler.
though he's like kind of on death's door. It's kind of the he's
He
like
seems very like, I don't know. The way
no,
he's
he's
like,
exuding power, but it's one of those things where like he's so old that he's like, I'm old even for dwarfs, dude. Like I'm
yes,
old.
that's true. But he definitely seems like he's still like
like Joe
represented as no, he seems like he's still represented as like a warrior king.
Yes.
And not in a way that's just performative.
Yeah, warrior
it sounds
king,
like there's
like
some
Joe Biden.
sounds like there's some real like power behind. It's not just ceremonial, him having the armor and the hammer. And if you say like Joe Biden one more time,
I really want
I'm
to.
going.
All right. Well, he tells Eragon that the age of writers is over. And even with Eragon back, Galbatorix, if he was killed, and all of the eggs, if they were to hatch, it's not going back to the way it used to be.
Yes.
Hrothgar explains that Zarok is of elven make, which is good to know. I wanted to know. It's this magic
Yes.
historied sword
Yes.
that everyone's worried about.
Yeah.
That Auric is actually his nephew.
Crazy.
That's kind of cool.
Yes.
And tells
No
Eragon.
wonder both these guys are so fun.
I know it's in the family, right? Tells Eragon that if he wants the support of the dwarves, he'll need to earn it through deeds.
Okay.
And he then quickly dismisses Eragon. It's actually very brief, much like Angela. I truly, with him though, he seems respectful and he seems interested in knowing and meeting Eragon. And I wonder why it's so brief. Is this a character thing? Like he's just a guy of like little words.
I mean, he definitely seems, at least from what we have so far, he seems like he's very direct. And I think sometimes with rulers like that, it's like, okay, this is to the point. That was all I needed to say.
Like a salt of the earth guy?
No. Just like
A man of the people?
I
Like
mean,
Joe Biden?
oh my God.
I'm just kidding.
He also likes ice cream and trains.
I just sounds like Hrothgar with like aviators and an ice cream cone.
Hopping on an Amtrak.
okay, we'll stop. Okay. I can. Sorry, you were saying something.
Oh, yeah. I just think he seems like very direct. The kind of person who understands that like strength is in like your brevity. Your words have more power when you use fewer of them. A concept neither of us has any connection
We
to
clearly-
whatsoever.
Kevin, our producer's nailing that. I think he said 5 words on this podcast and they've been
The best 5 words on this podcast.
I know.
It's infuriating.
it's so frustrating.
Even though I love that guy, but damn.
All right, I'll try to get through this. This stuff's chunky. We're getting a lot of information.
Yeah.
Auric tells Eragon that the child that he and Saphira Bless is being treated nicely, and they have been given special rooms and special caretakers now, and that all the other mothers and children are now seeking their own blessings for their children.
Really started something.
Yeah, and this worries Eragon because it should kind of worry him because it's kind of dumb
call
to
Joe
do.
Biden. It's a runaway train.
Yeah. Oric takes Eragon for a tour of the library. It sounds like a place I would love to visit.
I mean, yes.
It sounds so cool. The tables are built from stone into the walls and benches and alcoves.
Yeah.
It is also described as a forest of books. It's so big. I imagine that the bookshelves are also stone built, like from the ground up. You know what I mean? They'd be like dug out. So cool. Like the library is carved out of a mountain, this whole thing. While he's reading, the twins come and ambush him.
So shitty. In our sacred, beautiful library. I cannot believe it. Also, am I wrong, or does nobody write a description of a library like a fantasy author?
No one loves it more.
Unparalleled.
I know, it's so great.
Sorry.
So they ambush Eragon.
Yep.
And they're written much like Sloane.
Mm-hmm.
And the audiobook narrator uses the exact same voices as the Razak pair.
For the twins?
Yeah, so I guess we're just supposed to hate them like Sloane.
Are the Razak twins? Is that why we hate twins in this world?
I mean, are they the Razak?
Interesting.
I don't know. It's very fun and comical, kind of. Eragon is rude back, but both sides do some masterful, like, passive aggression.
Yes.
The twins came to ask him.
Some regular old wasps here.
Yeah, seriously. This is like, this is like New York country club vibes.
Yeah.
The twins came to ask him if he would like to be a member of their wizard club, I guess. And it's called the Wandering Path, or in the ancient language, Duvrengergata.
Ah.
Yeah, pretty solid name.
Yes.
Nice, Paolini. They insinuate that they can help train Eragon and show Eragon more words of power. All they ask in return, is just that he shares his knowledge.
Oh.
Yeah. And
not a big deal.
Not a big deal. Just a little exchange of information, And it's clear they just want all the magical words for themselves. And Eragon has kind of grown smart in this area. It is very super obvious to him here, finally,
Yes.
that they want to learn all that Brahm taught him.
Mm-hmm.
But as much as Eragon has grown, this bean farmer just instantly insults them. It's like, be cool, man.
No, don't be cool. We love our sassy king. He just loves to bandy. Remember when Durza had him on his knees beaten, and Eragon was like, "You forget about my one secret weapon, Saphira."
I know he can.
He loves a sass.
But this one he could have played better, right? I mean, the twins immediately jumped to threatening him with death.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Not great.
These guys are almost as bad as Sloane. Eragon returns to the dragon hold without blessing any children.
Oh, good.
Thank God. When they get there, they realize that there is also someone waiting for him. It is a young woman that looks like Ajahad.
Mm-hmm.
She introduces herself as Nasuada, Ajahad's daughter.
Yes.
She apparently walked all the way up the hole to relay a message from Ajahad.
It's crazy.
And Ajahad tells Eragon to stop blessing people as it's kind of a pain in the ass.
I love Ajahad so much.
He tells him to get on with the testing of his skills. Basically, Ajahad's like, hey, man, stop reading and touring the city and get back to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like all you're doing, idle hands, devil's playground. All you're doing is making trouble, basically, because you have nothing to do. Why don't you?
Hustle culture is strong here in
Yes.
Trondheim. It's getting out of hand. She also reminds him that Murtagh is a person and he should probably be visited.
Oh, he's just been, I don't know, rotting away?
Yeah,
What?
which, come on, man. You've been here for 2 days. He should have already visited. Creepily, he asks after that about Arya, not his bro.
Yep,
Come on,
sounds about
Eragon. Bros before hoes. We know this. The chapter ends with Solembum and Saphira hanging out as a friend, which makes sense.
Knew it.
Yeah, dude. They're basically the same person.
Yes. I love it. I would like to know how you could have wrapped up this whole introduction to Naswada, an entire female character, without letting us know, Dane, is she hot?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, everybody. She's a total babe.
Yep.
She's a babe, everybody.
That's right.
I figured you all knew. Most people are hot except the bad guys and maybe the half the dudes in this story.
I don't know. We do have a lot of hot dudes so far. I think we hopefully could have guessed she was hot because any of Ajahad's progeny are bound to be as flawless as he is. I get it.
That's so true.
Anyway, that takes us to chapter 56, Arya's test. We open this chapter on the morning of Eragon's third day, embedded with the Varden. He meets up with Auric on his way to his big exam. After telling the dwarf about his meeting with Naswada, Auric drops that she's like ultra competent. She's a political maneuverer. She's like at her dad's right hand. And just a little light backstory that Aja just rolled up at the Varden mysteriously alone with a newborn baby.
It's wild.
Crazy. Not to be believed, but apparently this is true. Of course, Eragon has no questions about this. He just keeps it moving.
He's like, why are you telling me about this?
He's like, I don't care. I already have a girlfriend. And it's like, no, date the hot lady who's awake.
I asked you about Arya, not
Yes.
Nasawada.
Yes, he's the worst here. They show up to the sparring field to meet Frederick, the weapons master. This guy seems great.
Yes.
He has a great rapport with Auric. He has some good points, actually, about Eragon's current level of actual battle readiness, like his actual battle stamina.
Oh, really?
He can sword fight, but like it's unlikely he's ever been in a situation where he's needed to like sword fight for hours on end, you know? And of course, right before he's about to start his weapons exam, the twins crash the party to preempt the Weaponry 101 final with the Magic for Writers exam. And surprise, surprise, Frederick also hates the twins, but he does let them start the magic test. And they start the trial by drawing a pentagram in the sand and standing inside of it to cast their magic. And I don't care if you're the biggest, baldest asshole in the world. That's fucking cool. That's metal.
It's pretty cool, but
so
it's
annoying.
like the evilest pop quiz I've ever heard of. You know what I mean?
But it's cool.
It is cool, though.
It's almost like how you never want to think somebody smoking a cigarette is cool, but like if they're in the right leather jacket and jeans, you're like, fuck.
Gosh, it's a little cool.
Don't smoke, kids. Anyway, this test is a deceptively simple like battle of wills and strength, but Eragon is able to complete each task in the twins' magic test, tapping Saphira's strength to easily overpower the bald bros. And Saphira also gives Eragon the idea to like get a little clever with it, using workarounds with simple phrases in the ancient language to avoid like giving up more of his vocab than he needs to.
Yeah.
Yes, which is like very shrewd, very sneaky 10 out of 10, Saphira. I'm impressed.
Pretty good.
Yes, dude. And as the last challenge, the twins throw Eragon a trick question that would essentially kill him to complete.
Ugh.
They're like, oh, just every magician knows, do like summon the essence of silver. And
Have we even
Eragon's
heard of this?
no. And Eragon's like floored. He's like, I could do it. And he's like sweating and racking his brains. And thank God Arya rolls up, looking hot as hell, of course, to save the actual damsel in distress in this story. And
Eragon. I think also we're getting a little bit of how much Christopher Paolini loves Arya here too. There's a little bit of that here.
I mean, the 15-year-old heart wants what it wants, Dane. But Arya shames the twins for their trick, like calls off the test. She's like, you know exactly what he can do already. This is absurd. It's going to kill him. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And they do.
They leave.
Importantly, yeah. She does chase him off.
Tells us something instantly about Arya.
Yes, she's important and powerful, well respected. And in this chapter, the reason for the name of the chapter is Arya's test. So the big coup de grace here is the showdown between Arya and Eragon. Our girl rolls up to this training area ready to rock in a full body leather outfit with a matching headband, and she demands the right of a trial by arms with Eragon, and it's baller. It's a bold opening move. And the bean farmer, a person who is well aware, it's been explained to him several times that the lowliest elf is faster and stronger than any human, has the thought as they start the trial, I will soften my blows so I don't hurt her. It's like,
oh, come on.
dude, buckle the fuck up. From her first strike, Arya absolutely outclasses Eragon.
Yes.
Yes. I'm like, thank God. And this actual blade master is struggling to keep himself from getting spitted, essentially. Eragon loses track of time as they spar, but the rest of this scene is written in this very erotic, like, dance of the blades style.
It is oddly a little, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's definitely like, as much as it feels like, oh my God, of course, a 15-year-old wrote this. I got to thinking a little bit about this, and it's something I feel like I see a lot of full-on fantasy writers do, actually. Like, just I don't know. I'm more in the camp of at least a 15-year-old wrote this. It's not like a 50-year-old man being like, watch these teens tangle their limbs and like,
right.
I don't think there were any
sway together with the movements of their sweaty bodies.
Like there weren't any phrases here that I hadn't read before, I think, in fantasy books.
Fair.
And most of those were written by adults. So
good for you, man.
Not that bad. But even though Eragon takes the L on the duel, as soon as they're done, the whole training ground erupts in cheers and congratulations for the whole thing being just like apparently such a spectacle to watch.
That makes sense.
Yeah, kind of fun. So with his final exams over and past, Eragon gets invited to have an actual real life conversation with the girl that he's obsessed with.
It's dream girl time.
Congratulations. He and Saphira fly to meet Arya. Saphira picks up that he has the hots for Arya and like, duh, Saphira.
She's finally, it's like, what have you been doing? You're in his head.
I thought you were supposed to be an ancient beast of great wisdom, and that took way too long. You're in his thoughts, yeah.
Can't she feel like a blood pressure rising or something? Yeah, I don't know.
But Eragon thinks Saphira is jealous of his attraction to Arya, and the whole little exchange was like a little uncomfortable for me. I don't know. I just didn't really like the tone of it.
You just don't like true love.
No, I don't. I like hard work, companionship, and partnership, and like the fruit of a labor of love, Dane, over a lifetime.
You know, the very romantic thing people always talk about, the labors of love.
It's
all the
rewarding.
Hard, just work that love is.
Yeah, that's correct. But when they finally get a little FaceTime with Arya, the elf first says something secret to Saphira before thanking Eragon for saving her life. The bean farmer is supremely awkward through this whole interaction, but this is the part where it actually starts to feel endearing. Finally, I think that's the way it's intended this whole time. So I'm glad. I'm like, okay, great. Arya tells Eragon about her ambush and capture by Durza and the months of torture she endured in the prison, including Durza apparently greenlighting his guards to, quote, use her as they would, is a thing she says.
Yucky.
Arya was apparently still strong enough to make them impotent with her mind magic, she says. But this is a book for young adults. Like, damn, it is striking again in the department of like, I cannot believe it was this bleak. Like, I don't remember necessarily. I think it just glazed right by me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Pretty much on every read until now, I've been like,
oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
This book on the reread reminded me of a lot more of the Colton Compass. That book is also pretty like holy. You know what I mean?
Yes. So before she cuts their first real meeting off, because apparently all Eragon does is meet with people who just cut their meeting short right after they summon him.
Yeah.
It's very weird dynamic.
Well, he's a dragon rider, but it seems to make no difference about how people treat him in conversations.
Nah. But Arya also tells Eragon before she goes that Queen Islanzadi was the one who gave Brom the ring Eragon is now wearing, and the symbol on it reflects the most loyal of friends to the elves. So I think now we know Islanzadi's queen
of the elves.
Yes.
Okay, and then Brom was a friend to the elves.
Most loyal friend. That's how he got his ring. So that's a cool little tidbit.
That's a cool little fact.
Yes. So riding high on what I'm positive Eragon is thinking of now as his first date, he goes to pay a visit to his bestie, finally, who's been wasting away in prison for 3 full days at this point.
I mean, come on, dude.
I know. Except when Eragon makes it to Murtag's cell, actually, quote unquote cell, he's led into a plush apartment by a cheery, like, guard dwarf. And Murtag's happy as fuck in here. He says he feels safe and peaceful for the first time in his entire life. And he's fed well and allowed to read as much as he wants. Eragon actually has, like, the insight to be a little worried for his friend, which surprises me here because he knows Murtag can't stay in this limbo forever. So, like, he does seem happy. He seems settled in, but Eragon's like, my guy, you're going to have to figure something out here.
Can't just be in jail.
Yes, but Murtag's basically convinced that he landed the best temp job in the world and everything else is future Murtag's problem, which I'm not going to lie. I respect that as an outlook.
Even more proof that he's just like the best.
Yes.
He's like, whatever, that's tomorrow's problem.
Yes. And after Eragon catches him up on the day's activities, like everything about the tests, Murtag realizes that Arya must be a particular brand of badass, even among the elves, to be a magic user, a combat master, and the chosen guard of the dragon egg. So we close the chapter with Eragon headed to bed, presumably to dream about what an absolute catch. He's sure he's like landed at this point. He's like, I did it.
I mean,
She's
he
mine.
saved her.
He saved her. And what more is there?
I mean, that's all love is based around.
Boo.
That's all I know. Chapter 57, The Shadows Lengthen. This chapter opens up with Eragon being woken in the middle of the night for an emergency. Yeah, things are heating up. Ulrich, Ajahad, and Arya, and Jormander, the second in command for the Varden, all gather in the Situation Room to discuss a very scary situation.
It's not the scary Situation Room?
They meet in the very scary Situation Room. Hermit Dwarf came out.
The setup's so goofy. I know this is like all the action of the book, but they're just like, our crazy guy, Jeff.
It's kind of funny.
Yes.
This is interesting to me. Hermit Dwarf came out of some of the abandoned tunnels with news that an army of Urgles are deep in those tunnels, in the deep, deep abandoned ones, entering the city.
Bad.
It's a full-on invasion from below the city.
Bad.
I love that even in fantasy lands, there are like the odd eccentrics that live alone and like as hermits. Good for you, hippie dwarf. Good for you, hermit. This guy totally is into healing crystals, I think. What do you want to bet?
That's a bet we don't have to make. I agree 100%. This guy has his tarot reader on speed dial.
Yeah, but he doesn't smell bad because his essential oils are.
Oh, yes, that's how that works.
Yes. So this seems to be where the Urgles have been gathering for a long time. Ajahad explains that if Galbatorix has added his human soldiers to the ranks of the Urgles, then the Varden and the Dwarves are lost.
Yes.
But if Galbatorix didn't, in an effort to keep it unknown that he was working with the Urgles in the Empire, they might be able to win this particular battle.
Okay.
And Hrothgar and Ajahad have a plan.
Okay.
They want to collapse. Actually,
of course they do. Our new daddies.
Our new daddies. It's really refreshing.
Our Varden daddy and our Dwarven daddy.
Yeah, they don't even include Eragon. They're like, we have a plan. Just come do our plan. It's amazing.
Yes. I mean, to be honest, that's what Eragon needs.
I know. I'm just like, we don't have a Kevin plan. We don't have a Bean Farmer plan.
Please don't wait. Yeah. Just fucking do what we say.
Yeah. So their plan is they want to collapse all the tunnels except for 3 and funnel all of the Urgles through those 3.
Okay.
My only criticism here is why not collapse all of them, or at the very least just one.
Yeah.
But okay, I get it. If you don't want to destroy your land, if you don't have to. And Eragon asked the question I just brought up, and Ulrich says that they might decide to clear the rubble or go a different way. They can't know, and there are so many tunnels underneath the city. Inside the mountain would like collapse under its own weight if they did that.
It's crazy.
I mean, sure. First, bad design, right? If you can just collapse all your tunnels and your city sinks, that's not great. But second,
maybe build fewer tunnels.
Yeah, it's like, do you build too many tunnels then, man?
Yeah.
That's not great.
We know you love tunnels, but that's too many tunnels.
Yeah. And second, collapsing the tunnels is assuming it didn't sink the city, would buy you time, and you could send scouts to look at all of the alternatives, right?
Okay.
Because you would know them.
Yeah.
But I'm getting into the weeds here. The plan is actually very fun. Ajahad needs Arya and Eragon to work on collapsing the tunnels with magic along with the Dwarven crews.
Yes.
Which is really cool. I like this scene, actually. So the stakes are the death of the Varden and the Dwarfs. So the stakes are very high, which would mean that Serta and eventually the elves would all be killed one by one.
Very casual.
Yeah, they only cause a threat and have a chance against Galbatorix if they band together.
Yes.
The plan is to evacuate the children and non-combatants while arming the army. Arya and Eragon will collapse tunnels so that they can push the Urgles to Farthendur. To push the Urgles to Farthendur right outside the gates of the city and force one giant battle there. It seems like it's all or nothing here. And I remember reading this for the first time when I read this and being shocked. I was so surprised. This is wild. So Eragon follows mining crews and starts using the magic to collapse tunnels.
Okay, so I'm not going to lie. I was waiting for you to get here because I've always like weirdly really liked the brief like coal miner cosplay we get in this chapter. For whatever reason, it's strangely fun for me to think about like these powerful magicians and a freaking dragon just like bouncing around to give like an assist to the work crews. They're like smudge. It feels like that scene in Zoolander to me when he goes to work in the coal mine.
It's exactly that vibe right now.
Yes, I think so.
Well, they actually do a good job. While he and Arya do that, Eragon gets a glimpse of all the citizens evacuating, and the armies getting ready to defend the Varden and the dwarfs. And we learn here that the standard of the Varden is a white dragon holding a rose above a sword pointing downward on a purple field.
Beautiful.
Which is metal as hell.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's
metal.
It's so cool. Next, a full-on D&D moment happens. It's every player's dream.
Yes.
Eragon gets a gift from Hrothgar. It is a set of
magic items.
Yes, it is a set of ancient dragon full plate
So cool.
to cover Saphira, and that's at least 4,000 gold pieces in D&D money. So like solid, and a complete set, which is rare in the story. The only thing that is really like open is her lower jaw and her wings.
Everything else is covered.
It's so cool.
I love that you
her
said
armpits and belly are covered.
No, so cute. I love that you're like, it's rare in the story, unlike the real world where we have a full
Unlike
set
the
of...
D&D world.
I know, I'm joking.
Yeah, unlike where I've armored my dog.
Yes.
Ghost,
My
the
full
bulldog.
plate. She'd be so cool in some armor.
And her weaknesses are her belly and her
yeah.
armpits too. So she mentions it's heavy and will slow her down, but it will stop the arrows because it's so thick. Like she's so big and so strong.
Like Ghost.
Yeah,
Your dog.
like my dog. Like that. Like the arrows can't pierce it.
It's crazy.
It's wild. Also, Auric gives Eragon an ancient set of rare dwarven but human-sized armor
Crazy.
for Eragon. It is so old, they don't even know who made it or who it was for. It's brand new, essentially.
They're just cleaning out closets.
It's so cool. Like, it's chainmail with greaves and arm guards, a wooden shield. He's got a gold and metal helm he puts on. And I'm imagining, like, that square one from Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
like,
yes.
I imagine, like, he is fully decked out Dwarven-y, but he's, like, tall. You know what I mean? He's now officially a warrior and not a traveling adventurer. He is leveled up. Yeah, we know.
Congratulations.
Because he got his loot.
Yes.
He and Saphira, now armored, walk into the battlefield where boiling pitch and spiked defenses are made.
More D&D.
Yes, it's so
Battlefield prep.
And Eragon and Saphira dig trenches and afterwards rest.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
it's nice.
That's a balanced day right there.
That's-
Some light mine work, getting some gifties,
Yeah.
digging some trenches, and a little nap.
A little nappy poo. Ajahad releases Murtag to prove he is not a threat and kits him out as well. So Murtag and Auric and the twin are all show up and hang out with him.
Yes, Aja it truly is the best here. He's like, listen, we're going to need every fighter. You seem like you're dangerous. Do
Yeah.
you want to come fight with us?
And he was like, "Ugh. Of course I'm dangerous.
Yeah, this is something about I'm the man for the job.
Yeah. I imagine Murtag, like he has to defend Eragon. He's like, I'm getting too old for this shit.
Yes,
It's a great time. The twins are going to be communicating orders from Ajahad to Eragon, and he'll need to be linked to them. Eragon obviously does not want this, but he agrees.
Yes.
Ajahad tells Eragon that he's going to let Eragon and Saphira choose their own attacking strategy for the most part, as he is just like completely unsure how to use them. He's not dealt with like flying dragon and rider murderers.
Okay.
You know, so he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
The chapter ends with some cringe. Eragon seeing Arya. Everything you said. Remember everything you said about Arya and how dangerous she was?
Yes.
And how he fought her.
Super badass.
and
a
how he
conversation
lost.
Eragon's had with other people.
And then experienced it
In real time, yes.
in real time with her, right? Okay. So knowing that,
Uh-huh.
Eragon sees her.
Yes.
He goes to her.
He's like, would you come stand by me and protect me?
No.
No?
No. Surprisingly, you see, he is super concerned and doesn't want her to go into battle. Yeah. Even though
So
she is
annoying. I mean,
even though she is in fact stronger, faster, more skilled in combat than him, as well as magic, making her
Yes.
probably the most deadly creature outside of Saphira.
she just
It-
walks around with a chorus of Daft Punk behind her.
Right? It's super awkward and weird, and teen love is strange, I guess.
It's one of these, like, okay, to be fair, I guess for me, this is like it feels perfectly, it's annoying, yes, but it feels perfectly in character for Eragon. Like, straight up, absolutely, he would do this.
Yes, he didn't think about it. He was just
No.
like, I don't want her to get hurt.
Not to my BB.
I'm gonna go talk to her. I already saved her, so I think that's my Eragon voice. I'll just you shouldn't do it. You know what I mean?
It's a
Anyway.
little like Frito.
Yeah, exactly. So she kind of puts him in his place. Arya tells him that she's here to guard him and Saphira. That's her job.
Yes.
And it made it even more weird when Eragon was like, "Oh, well, how about I say something more cringe and tell you in the ancient language to say safe for my happiness." So this is how he's like, "I just want you to stay safe for my happiness." Yeah. The pure audacity of this man.
Yes.
Bean farmer move there, dog.
For real.
So now we have our crew: Murtag the badass,
Yes.
Ulrich the dwarf,
Yes.
Arya the elf,
Yes.
Saphira the dragon,
Yes.
and Kevin.
Get it.
The Eragon the rider.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they all wait for war as Eragon hears voices in his uneasy sleep, and they say, "Are you ready?" Really weird.
It's really creepy.
I think he's having stress, like nightmares or something.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's fair.
It's very relatable.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely have a good stress nightmare on occasion. I love this like night before the battle, like jittery. The tension is high here. It's well crafted. So that takes us to chapter 58, the aptly named Battle Under Farthen Door. This chapter starts with an all-time fantasy classic cold open of Arya saying, "It has begun."
Nice.
I think for me in my headcanon, she has a deeper voice than Eragon. She's like, "It has begun." And Eragon's like, "It has begun."
Who's your fantasy casting of Arya?
Ooh, what a good question.
I've always pictured Lucy Liu for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think you must have told me that before because I was picturing Lucy Liu, and that would be too, I don't know. We have spent a lot of time together in this room. It's conceivable that we would just, apropos of nothing, have the same mental image, but I think you did that to me the same way I gave you Idris Elba for Aja Had.
Yeah, let's just save our heads and be the twins. We can buy robes. And
I mean, I would be so down to
One of us tells the truth. One of us tells a lie.
I would be down to wear a robe everywhere. So, like, I'm half in. I'm just saying.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, Arya says, "It has begun." And just chills. I love it.
Yeah.
It's classic.
It's great.
As the Urgles start to emerge from the tunnels, the defenders pull another classic burning pitch and arrows combo. And although he's participating in this, Eragon is notably sickened to see like the inferno of Urgles essentially erupting in the tunnel mouths. It is described disgusting, like very graphic actually. Eragon's looking around at everyone in his crew, really taking care of business on the battlefield. He's like proud of all his friends. It's like, look at Murtagh getting it. Look at Arya getting it.
We're great.
We're doing it.
Are we doing it?
Yes. But he ends up being separated from Saphira in a dive to like retrieve Zarok out of, I think, an Urgle, which is gross. But of course, Murtagh charges in on Tornak to rescue his sword bro. And Eragon and Saphira are able to take off to start conducting some like stealthy air raids on the Urgle's archers, which is kind of cool. There's like smoke everywhere and they're able to like fly low through the smoke and just like murk a bunch of Urgles with like swords and claws and teeth. It's brutal, but
pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Before long, the twins radio Eragon to head over to shore up Hrothgar's ranks, and Eragon's blown away by what a beast the ancient dwarven king is on the battlefield.
I was wrong.
Like, yes.
He's not old.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
Well, he's very old, but he definitely is still like a boss out in the midst of battle. And after who else but freaking Angela and Solemnbum bail Eragon after like another nasty scrap with a coal, Eragon and Saphira get airborne again, realizing the battle is not going well on any of the fronts. With that like bird's eye view, essentially, they're like, oh shit, the three tunnel battles all look bad. And as a quick aside, during this flight, Eragon wonders how many Urgles he could kill at once with magic. And Christopher Paolini writes a truly astounding sentence here. He says, quote, about Eragon, "He knew his limits fairly well."
Okay. Chris.
Did he?
Okay, Chris.
All evidence points very, very prominently in the other direction. That is maybe the thing he's the worst at.
He's passed out like 9 times in this fucking book.
Trying to use too much magic. So shockingly, for once, the bean farmer makes the right call, decides it would be suicide to magically kill enough Urgles to make a difference in the battle. So
thank God.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
As he gets back to murder the old-fashioned way, the twins radio in again to sound the alarm that more Urgles are trying to dig their way into the actual city. So right now, the fighting has all been like in the open, like kind of no man's land and tunnel mouths before you get to like the actual city gates of Trondheim.
Genuine question.
Yes.
I've never understood this. And I should, because I've read it so many times. Are these Urgles presumably from a different tunnel we did not know about?
Trying to dig into the city.
Yeah.
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, somebody's like under the city. There's another tunnel that didn't get collapsed right. Maybe they cleared rubble. I don't think we necessarily know, but we
didn't get a warning.
Yes,
no hippy-dippy person was out there
no,
in that
but
tunnel.
They're not like battlefield Urgles who have like broken through to assault the city gates. If that makes sense. They're a different band coming up from under. And Eragon and Arya decide like they're going to get back in their mining gear to collapse some of the tunnels to prevent this from happening. Kind of an odd plan, but that's what they're going with.
Okay.
But when Saphira gets injured taking off after they pick up Arya, they decide to regroup in the dragon hold to remove her armor's been like shattered and bent onto her. She can't really move. So they're like, okay, let's fly up to the dragon hold, get the armor off, and like figure out what to do. Allegedly, the twins were supposed to be on top of Isidar Mithram. That's where they were like scouting the battlefield from.
Gotcha.
But they're nowhere to be found when Arya and Eragon and Saphira arrive, but no time to think about that per usual. Eragon decides to head back down to ground level while Arya stays to help Saphira get free of the armor. And we've been talking a lot about classic D&D. Like, what's the number one rule? All I could think, I'm like, I don't even play that much D&D, but like, what is the number one rule?
Never split the party.
Never split the party. Oh, so nothing good ever comes of this, and it's especially true here. To start with, Kevin's first choice on his own is to take the dwarven slide of death all the way down like the length of Trondheim, which leaves him in the midst of a battle, like lest you forget, raging battle. He's so dizzy, he has to curl in a ball and hold his head in his hands. Like he can't think, he can't stand. He's incapacitated of his own poor decision making.
Yeah, Eragon is really a one step forward, one death slide back kind of guy.
It's a hilarious joke. I just keep dwelling on like he knew his limits fairly well. Come on, Chris.
Yeah, come on. And then immediately shows us this.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Oh. And just as Eragon's getting like his wits back about him, he's literally just able to stand up.
Yeah.
The floor of Trondheim, the floor of the city, explodes with Urgles rushing out of the gaping hole. And who else could be there in their midst but Durza, the Shade. So this is kind of a different band of Urgles, or like another faction being led directly.
You know what this
by
is?
The Shade.
This is metal as hell.
It is metal as hell. I thought we were gonna have a pun about like what a shady way to sneak around.
Oh, that's better than what I was coming up with. It's metal though.
It's super metal. Speaking of Durza's like a true lean in girly, because his battle tactic here is to use a weapon only a Shade would possess. Impeccable and edgy fashion sense. He's really got it all. He's like the description's just funny. He's garbed in like a whole colorway of like deep black and crimson on his like burnished shield. I really don't need to say anything except for he's wearing a snake skin cloak, Dane. What a bold choice. Have you ever seen a fully snakeskin cloak?
No, but that is like, if you can pull it off, you're a baller.
Yes, exactly. So Eragon warns Saphira about the chaos that's like ensuing on the ground level of Trondheim, but he knows it's impossible. It's going to be impossible for her and Arya to reach him in time from the top of Isidar Mithram. So he's fucking alone down here with hundreds of Urgles in the Shade. Not great. Yes. Not great. Durza actually forces the Urgles to like not attack. He says something to them so that they just form a ring and like surround himself and Eragon, like classic.
Yeah, bad guy. This one's mine.
Yes, exactly. But Durza starts intimidating Eragon first. They're just like doing a little light shit talk before going in with the double-pronged sword and mind attack right at the same time. It's looking very lopsided in favor of the Shade here, but just as Durza catches like a Hail Mary physical blow from Eragon. Eragon's basically just swinging wildly and something happens to hit Durza.
Yeah.
Eragon is, though, able to capitalize on that and use his opportunity to break into Durza's mind. And this gets wild. Eragon is flashing between the battle in the present and Durza's tortured life. Like his whole past is like vividly playing out. So
cool.
It's crazy. And we're getting like scenes of his evolution into like the twisted creature he is today. And I will be damned. Like this is riveting the way it's written. So well written, so like dark and
it's so good.
Creepy. And just as Eragon is consumed by like his final glimpse essentially of what is Durza's human form, how he started his journey. It's this human man, Karsabe, being corrupted for the first time by these like evil spirits. And it's a vision that's the strongest yet. Eragon cannot break his way out. And the Shade in the present charges. He cleaves through Eragon, who's essentially defenseless, and puts a vicious slash across Eragon's entire back. He like lays Eragon open essentially. And at this point, of course, Eragon's utterly beaten. Like he falls to the ground. He can't get up. He can't do anything. He's like rapidly dying.
Does he make like little like why me and blood on the ground? Stick figure of himself, crosses it out.
I don't think that's a coping mechanism that works on dirt or on stone floor, only in dirt.
It's a dirt-based coping mechanism.
Yes, that's our Eragon. No, but he's ruminating on like, holy shit, I cannot believe that's how it ends. Like I tried my best and I just got
Wrecked.
and now the whole Varden's gonna die. Like he's really ruminating on all of this, and he looks up in his grief towards Isidar Mithram, and at that very moment it explodes in a flash of blinding light and a rain of shards of gemstone, and Saphira and Arya are swan diving to his rescue in a blaze of glory, Dane.
It's so cool.
Yes, and Eragon realizes like this is maybe the only distraction he's ever gonna get. He musters every last ounce of his strength. He gets like a very, very second, third, fourth, I don't know, 18th wind here. So much adrenaline.
Captain American, I could do this all day.
Yes, dude.
You know?
So he musters all that strength to lash out at Durza one last time. He lights his blade Zarok, crying Brissinger, obviously the first magic word Brom uttered in front of him.
Full circle, man.
And he lands the money shot right in the heart.
Yeah, you got him.
Yes, and with what's described as an unearthly howl, Durza essentially explodes. Like it says his skin turns translucent. You can see swirling darkness underneath, and his skin is like rent apart. He like rips in two, and
gross.
3 dark entities fly from his body and out a farthen door. And as Eragon's strength is finally leaving him, he obviously passes right the fuck out. Like after that one blow, he's like, oh, I'll die now. And passes out. And the very last thing he sees is a like brief glimpse of Arya and Saphira bringing all of the Star Sapphire shrapnel to a halt before it can kill him, just shred him to pieces.
Oh, that's so cool.
The Battle of Farthen Door. Dane,
he killed a shade.
He killed a shade. Are you ready for the last chapter?
Here we go. It's a small one, but it is the last one. Here we go. Chapter 59, The Morning Sage. Eragon is still trapped in Durza's memories. He doesn't know who he is. Is he the desert rat? Is he Karsabe? Is he Durza? Is he Eragon? He sees so many horrific actions of Durza over his life, and suddenly his own memories of the last year come in a flash. He finds that he's proud of who he is. It is lost, though. It is an endless fight, and it seems to be losing. Like, it's really this really confusing, like, what's happening?
Yes, it's all like cut to.
Yeah.
And he's like really trying to think his way out of this, like.
And it seems fucked up what the Shade did for like a very long time. So it's also like really gruesome and horrible things. Ugh. So he seems to get free of his thoughts, and a pain seems to crack through from time to time. And then he hears a voice. Mm-hmm. He hears a voice that tells Eragon to come to him. In that moment, Eragon realizes that the person keeping the pain away is the person of the voice. Mm-hmm. And the voice feels somehow like Arya does when he touches minds with Arya. It's always like a vaguely musical quality that's described.
He says it's like different, like unearthly, different than anything he's ever felt before, which like for most of the book I just took to mean like, okay, teen love. Yeah. But now, there's
something going on there.
Yes.
Yeah. So the voice removes Durza's memories instantly.
What?
And kind of gives like instant relief and frees Eragon.
It's crazy.
And this voice tells him he can do no more than keep Eragon sane due to the distance. Interesting.
Okay.
And the voice says he is the morning sage, the cripple who is whole, and that Eragon will not be safe until he finds the cripple who is whole.
So many mysteries.
I know.
I remember as a kid being like, I thought we were wrapping this shit
Me
up.
too. I was like, what is this? Who's this guy? So he must go to the land of the elves, and there he will be. Okay. But he must hurry, or he might be too late. It's like it leaves on this like time pressure.
Yes.
What is happening? There's mysteries abound.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Sorry, now I'm just getting this like very visceral picture, like having 4 pages, like 2 or 3 pages from the end, and like there's just all this new information, and you're like, are you kidding? Because you have that panic. The book's almost over, and you're not going to find any of this stuff out.
It's like, what? Who's that? I was like, what? I was So he commends Eragon for killing the Shade.
Mm-hmm.
Then as the voice puts Eragon to sleep, it tells Eragon not to tell anyone about their conversation.
Yes.
Eragon's last thoughts are that Bronn would be proud of him. It's so sweet. I kind of choke up on that.
Yeah.
But I'm always a sucker for like father figure approval.
Oh.
So like just the fact that he's proud of this actually gets some hate online, but like he should feel proud of himself. You know,
Yes.
he didn't die and he killed a Shade.
Yes.
And like Bronn would be fucking proud of him.
Yes,
so.
he's trained for like 4 months at this point, and he killed a Shade.
It's fucking
It
cool.
doesn't matter if like he needed to use like battlefield strategy, basically.
And also, what's the problem with being confident and like taking a moment to be like, oh,
I did it.
I did good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Anyway, Angela wakes Eragon from his sleeping. He's disoriented. He worries instantly for Saphira and tries to get up, but the pain like totally overwhelms him. It's too
Yes.
much. He lays back down and Angela lets Saphira's head. It's so cute. Her like head comes in the
Yes.
room. Yeah. And then Arya comes in and then Murtagh comes in.
Yeah.
It's a real happy affair.
Yeah.
Murtagh says that once Durza was killed, the Urgles all stopped fighting. They seemed woken from a spell of some sort and all of them started to attack each other.
Yes.
So the army disintegrated in minutes.
crazy.
And the Varden and Dwarves won.
Yeah.
We
We
won.
did it.
We did it.
Mission accomplished. Roll the banners.
Yeah, put the banner out. Get Ajahad up on a pedestal. So it was all thanks to Eragon in a real sense.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're just hunting pockets of Urgles in the tunnels. And Eragon asks about the twins, like who were not where they were supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And Murtagh tells them that they bravely actually were fighting off a group of Urgles somewhere else and have also become heroes. So good for them, I guess. And Eragon thinks that that's wrong somehow, but he can't put his bean fingers on it. He just doesn't know.
Too busy holding all the beans.
Yeah.
He can't put his finger on it.
It's just he's Kevin it all over the place here.
Well, it sounds like we have a lot of shit to figure out in the next book. So we'll
Yeah.
put a pin in that, I think, because I don't buy it either. I hate those guys.
They
I just don't
suck.
like to believe anything good about people that I hate
Yeah.
because I'm a cruel and vindictive lady.
No, you're not. Arya explains that she couldn't come faster because she was trying to take Saphira's armor off, which we knew. And when she had to move fast, she had to break the Star Sapphire. And Saphira blew fire while Arya froze all the gems to stop them from killing her and Eragon. It was all a huge distraction just to do exactly what they did and try to
Yes.
save him. And the only one she could come up with, and she like feels really bad about it, Eragon then realizes that he is scarred and very hurt.
Yes.
Because he realizes he's been asleep for a day and a half and he's in bad shape. And this is actually interesting. Angela tells him that she is not a magician like Arya or the twins or any of them. And she has like limits.
She has like access to magic, but she can't call it at will.
It's
and
all
do-
very opaque. Like
Yeah.
it's very, she did something magical, but it's not the same.
Yes.
And he feels his back and he is definitely disfigured, just like Murtagh.
Yes.
Murtagh points to it like a bro. And he's like, no, you're just like me, man.
That's not Murtagh's
Oh, sorry.
voice.
Excuse me. Now you're just like me. So the book ends with Eragon's memory of the cripple who was whole and the soothing words he remembers. And the book ends with Eragon sending the thoughts, I will come. I'm just kidding. I will come. We did it, Jacqui.
We did it.
Yeah, whole fucking book.
Oh my God. The canned applause again.
Canned applause.
We made it. Congratulations. I can't believe we made it through summaries of 59 chapters here, but that leaves us only one place to go, and it's not home.
Oh, no.
No, I want to get into the analysis section for this last set of chapters for the book.
It's time for analysis.
I do want to use the analysis here to talk more about the book as a whole, I think, and its theme versus like just this last section. Obviously, there's only one choice here. The theme of the book, Dane. This
Yep.
may surprise you. Again, my very hard-hitting literary criticism.
Let me hear it. I'm ready.
You want to guess?
Finding who you are.
Coming of age.
Coming of age. Okay.
We're a coming of age tale here. We're a coming of age positive podcast.
We're still working on it ourselves.
That's correct. I do want to just briefly touch on. I think I've talked so much in this book about the different aspects that feel coming of agey about this book. Things like, you know, changing worlds and the ordinary versus the extraordinary, like expanding your horizons, like being faced with consequences, understanding the perception of who you are versus who you really want to be. I think Christopher Paolini, in so many ways, with so many characters that we've already been through. I'm not just going to sit here and rehash all of that. Don't worry. You look scared.
I was like, oh, wow, we're going, buckle up, everybody.
Yes. No. But I think in so many small ways, he does such a good job of making this whole picture look very nuanced and bring in a lot of aspects. We talk about it a lot because I think the writing here really makes you feel the way you did when you were coming of age. There's a really solid emotional connection point because I think of the number of ways he expands on this theme. But I do in this episode want to talk a little bit about the actual writing style, because I think what most people would agree is one of Christopher Paolini's biggest strengths in his writing is his world building, his descriptions, and his set pieces. So maybe it's because I was a curious little fucker as a kid and then still to this day, like, get very wide-eyed and like I'm literally awestruck sometimes walking through like a national park. I just am that kind of person. But to me, the way Christopher Paolini is able to show us this world through his words in such a vivid and evocative way. I mean, there's a lot of cut scenes essentially, or like cut asides to describe, you know, the rolling hills or the like foreboding mountains.
There's the sea.
The lush forests, the sea. Like, that's really, really to me a strength in this writing. He's so good at painting these vivid pictures. And I think for me, it does a lot to make the whole book feel like a discovery of this world. Like, you're stumbling into something that is big and epic in scale, but also very realistic, like something that feels like you could be there, even though it's a land with magic and dragons and earls and elves. But the actual like physical settings, I think, feel real to me in a way.
They're very detailed description. You got to get lost in them. They're not boring to consume.
Yes, I think so. And I think a lot of it, like, maybe as somebody from America, especially like the West Coast of America, who likes to do a road trip and like, again, go camping, national parks, all that kind of stuff, these like vast deserts and like giant mountain ranges and like all of these things feel like things I've seen. And I've talked a little bit before about how Christopher Paolini, you know, was born in Los Angeles, ended up moving up to Montana, and like, I can kind of see, I can really immediately picture like, oh, I bet it looks something like, you know, this area of the country or this area of the country, except for better, cooler, bigger, you know, like, and it gets exciting. And I think here, everything's so well painted for us. Like, it's a really effective way of driving home the point that Eragon's having his life changed in front of his eyes, because you feel like you're there with him, you know, as he's growing into his own. I think the other thing I wanted to touch on a little bit is some of the symbolism in this book, or just one piece of it, really. There's a lot of very classic fantasy symbolism I could go on and on about. I think it's used in a very classic way here. Things like swords being signs of power, things, you know, like binary good and evil, that kind of stuff, dark and light, like all of that kind of stuff. But I think what I kind of found interesting, maybe something I picked up on this reread, I think is kind of what I want to talk about versus stuff I saw before. So for me, I think I really connected to the way Christopher Paolini uses the turning of the seasons in this book to really like ground us effectively in what's happening in the narration. So as the book starts, we're in the late fall season. It's turning to winter. I did talk about this a little bit in the first episode. I just really liked the way it carried through kind of all the way to where we are now. So as fall is turning into winter, Eragon is discovering Saphira's egg, hatching her, becoming a rider, having essentially what's his like exodus from Carvajal and his first time traveling outside of his hometown. And that turn of the seasons really frames that section of the book. And then as winter turns to spring, he and Brom have teamed up on the road. He's gotten a lot of his education. And that's the point where I think, I mean, obviously, as they're descending the foothills, we joke about it a lot.
Yeah.
It's the, don't they have winter here? Why is everything so green?
Yes.
As they're coming into Tyrim, like that's kind of the dawning of this new spring. And it's the very first big city that Eragon's ever been in his life. I think it's such a pivotal like turning point about what people are like. It's in that episode, if you remember, we talked about the value of knowledge. I think that's a really big theme in all of these books, in this series as a whole.
Yes.
And I think having the season turn again right there really marks another turning point for Eragon in his life as he learns to read, as he learns to relate to large groups of people versus like small villages, like handfuls of people at a time. And it takes us all the way to like that turning into the spring, all the way to where they're really starting to make serious plans, like revenge plot, as you talked so much about.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And take some decisive action. And for me, the other thing that's kind of interesting here is as you're reading, at a certain point in the book, we kind of stop. We still get descriptions of the landscapes around Alagasia, but we stop getting descriptions as they relate to the seasons. And I kind of thought that was interesting.
Interesting.
And for me, that really kind of stops when Brahm dies. And I think it's interesting that, like, in a way, maybe in some ways, Eragon's character development takes such a leap there, and then plot wise in this book, all hell kind of breaks loose. And it's not so much about how all these places he's going, how like the actual plot is moving his character along in terms of like deep coming of age development. From that point on, it's more just like, he's got to go. He just like has shit to do. He cannot help it. He doesn't really have a lot of options anymore. It's kind of just chaos after that. We kind of lose the connection to the seasons in all that chaos.
Yeah, him and Murtagh can't have Hot Boy Summer.
No. Hopefully soon. Maybe now. Although with their matching backs, their matching back scars.
Well, they'll be tank guys.
Oh.
Yeah, they'll be tanks
Tanks at the beach. That totally makes sense. But I really liked that aspect of it again. I think this is one of the things Christopher Paolini does so well. I think it's his connection. He's talked a little bit about it in interviews, but his connection to the natural world. Yes, it's something like he's very invested in nature. It's something he really enjoys. And I think that really comes through. And I think he uses kind of these devices really effectively to show where we're moving time, where we're developing character, and maybe where we're frantic. We're just like racing to the end game. And I think it's worth noting again, just to like wrap up my analysis for a whole season.
Oh my gosh, it's the last one.
I know. We know from like Christopher Paolini and his parents, again, I talk about this shit a lot. He wrote this book at 15 after graduating high school through a homeschool program. He wrote, revised, edited, and self-published the book by the time he was 17. It was picked up and released by an actual publisher when he was 18. I cannot help but look at all of that and think it ties so much into the way he's able to tell this coming-of-age story in a way that gets readers, like I said, really emotionally involved with these characters and connecting deeply, remembering what it was like when they were on the precipice of dropping into the unknown of like the quote-unquote real world for quote unquote adults.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that means. Like, it's one of those things that I can so acutely remember feeling like
the two adults say as they analyze the children's book for the podcast. Yes. But I do so remember feeling like I was learning about, like around this age, like I was learning about and finally entering like a expansive and unknown to me, but something that felt like very concrete aspect of reality. Like, oh, this is the real world, and like everybody knows the rules, and I'm learning them now, and it's going to be the same forever. And kind of feeling like everybody has a handle on this thing, and I was just going to figure it out and then go do it. Like that felt like the point of my life. I think it feels very much for Eragon, maybe like the same things happening here. And I think that's what's interesting about when all hell breaks loose, because to me it's like the way all these years later I'm realizing like everybody was kind of just making it up as they went along. Like life just happens and you just react to it in a lot of ways. I mean, you just kind of survive and go forward.
Yes. And so I like this book. I think all of those things are done so well. I think that's why so many people connect to this story and like do deeply love it, for all the, what are the haters saying? I think there are just as many, if not more, people who really love this book because of what it's able to make you feel about your own childhood, your own growth, your own development.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this book is very well loved. And I mean, even in the early years, there was another kid who wrote a book. I'll talk a little bit about him in my deep dive. And he just did it because he loved the book.
Yeah.
Like he made his own book about Algasia because he loved Christopher Paolini's book. I think it really touched a lot of people. I told you it stuck with me a lot.
Yes.
I definitely thought about my life through the many years that I came back to this series. And you're right. There's like an element of this that's like, okay, he's trying to figure it all out. And like, I think losing those mentors kind of like sheds this, there's a right way to do things.
Killing dads right and left.
I mean, if you're a father figure in Algasia, stay away from Eragon.
Yeah, stay woke, y'all.
Your days are
better.
Oh my God. Well, oh no, that doesn't bode well for our new king daddies.
Oh no.
Okay. Well, on that, I don't want to think about that because it brings me into a deep sense of sadness. But I'd rather go into a deep dive.
It's deep
dive.
So it's time to explore the concepts of shades.
Yes.
I've been super eager to delve in to this topic since honestly Durza first popped up in the prologue of this book.
Yeah, when we were going through talking about like maybe what some good deep dive topics would be, like episode by episode, I think there were 5 or 6 that you were like, shades could go here. We could talk about shades.
We could put the shade here.
Yeah, calm down.
It was the first deep dive I came up with, and now you're hearing it on episode 10. So
I'm just glad you got there. Really snuck it in at the end. Congratulations.
I was determined. Okay. So I'm going to use a few sources to illustrate how Christopher Paolini's shade is a combination of the origins of the word and other monsters that we see in mythology that function in similar ways. And I won't go too inside baseball on this. We'll get an overview, and there will be references in the show notes for you to look at all these things I'll reference.
Yes.
First, let's go and look at what Christopher Paolini shade Durza actually is. In Eragon's Guide to Algasia, Paolini states that shades are magicians controlled by spirits. Only the evilest spirits possess humans, and once ensconced, they never willingly leave. Can only be killed by a thrust through the heart.
Yes.
So in this section of the chapters, we see a spirit take over Karsabe.
Yeah.
I think Karsabe.
There's no way to know.
Yeah, there's no way to know. And he's dead. It's fine. After his master was killed by bandits and he sought revenge. Now, according to the Inheritance Almanac, that's that book written by that guy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, this is Michael Macaulay.
And he was like a kid who had Eragon.
He's like another dude who was like, hey. And like Christopher Paolini's dope. He like did the introduction, I think, and like allowed it.
Christopher Paolini famously is like into fans who connect with this work, which I love that journey for Chris. I love that journey for the fans.
Yeah, he's very generous with his world.
For sure.
So shades are, quote, sorcerers who become possessed by spirits they have conjured, kind of the same.
Yeah.
From the Inheritance fandom, the wiki provides a more comprehensive definition that I'm going to share as well. A shade was a magic user and sorcerer possessed by a spirit or spirits, becoming a new creature. And while shades could originally be human, dwarf, elf, urgle, or dragon, once possessed, they adopted similar traits such as extreme strength and magical proficiency.
Could you imagine a dragon shade, Dane?
Oof.
Like,
end of the world, right?
absolutely fuck that.
Yeah, so this means like that only sorcerers who use spirits to perform magic are really at risk of becoming shades and are likely the only ones who would know how to do this. So the risk of the dragon thing's probably pretty low.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed, dude.
That's crazy. Angela says on shade and sorcerers, a shade, however, relinquishes that control in their search for greater power and allows their bodies to be controlled by spirits. Unfortunately, only the evilest spirits seek to possess humans, and once ensconced, they never leave. Such possession can happen by accident if a sorcerer summons a spirit stronger than himself. And the problem is, once a shade is created, it is terribly difficult to kill, as we've seen. I'm sure you know only 2 people, Lateri, the elf, and Arnstad, the writer, ever survived that feat. So
and now Eragon.
Yeah. So
he's killed a shade.
He's one of 3, right?
Crazy.
So they're greater and faster than an elf, more magically proficient than any creature other than a dragon, and capable of surviving wounds outside of a direct stab through the heart. And this makes me think of 2 real-world myths. So, and I think the concepts Christopher Paolini blended to make Durza came from 2 main places.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about them really quickly.
Yeah.
First, the word shade is used to mean ghosts or spirits in mythology across many cultures. So in Greek mythology, the word shade appears in the Odyssey, describing the souls in the underworld.
Okay.
I'm also pretty sure the word shade is used in the Bible to represent ghosts and spirits.
Okay, so this is just the word, not necessarily like
not the actual thing, just the words. This makes me wonder if Paolini may have been trying to hint at Durza's origin in that prologue through the use of the term in that first page.
Knowing that it's like spirit connected.
Yeah, is it a spirit?
Yes, then throughout the book we get like several references to magic users who conjure spirits.
Yes.
Like we should be getting an idea that like,
yes,
maybe those two things are connected.
Exactly.
For the record, I was not getting that idea. This is not information I knew, which is why we do the deep dives. Mostly for my benefit.
The other second one, I think everyone would probably be able to make the connection. But secondly, Durza can be seen as a blend of the spirit of the dead or a shade, right? As mentioned above, and as a type of vampire. So vampires are everywhere in folklore and myth.
Yes.
In most vampire stories.
Now those I've heard of, Dane.
Yes.
Believe it or not.
You might have heard of a thing called a vampire. So they can only normally be stabbed in a heart, usually with a stake.
Okay.
And in others, we can have, like in other versions, we can have very specific ways to kill the vampire-like creature, some as simple as making them break a promise and so on. They also have the ability to survive anything other than that thing or attack.
Oh, right.
So this makes Durza a pretty cool, unique monster that hints at the origins of the real word, like the real world word.
Yes, like the mechanics function a little bit like a vampire. But the word shade
and origin,
is spirit-based.
Spirit-based, and he hinted at both by using the term shade. Kind of cool when you put it all together.
Yeah.
Which is something I appreciate in authors. As much fantasy and mythology as I have read, Durza kind of stands out, actually, as a unique version of this kind of combination.
Yeah.
And these two very famous monsters and mythological beings. Everyone's heard of spirits and the vampires and stuff, which is a stark contrast to the very fantasy tropey versions of dwarfs, elves, and dragons that are in this story.
Yeah.
He reminds me a lot of the Rozak. I would love to do one on the Rozak. But like Durza, there's a lot of hints here about the vampire stuff too. He was pale. He had red eyes.
Oh, that's right.
He had blood-colored hair. There's a lot of hints here, and I think it's kind of fun because it's almost like you would have known the whole time.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, it's a little like seeds were planted and you either picked up on them or you didn't, but it's kind of fun on a reread. God, now I think I'm going to reread it again.
Oh no.
Not soon, probably. This has been a lot of time with Dear Eragon, and we're getting into, spoiler alert, we're getting into reading all the rest of the books in the series too for the podcast. So it might be a little bit before I make it back. But I think on a reread, this is definitely something I would be paying attention to because it's a good point that it's been seeded through here, and it's totally not something I knew other than like what a vampire is.
Right.
And please don't at me for being as dumb as I am. I can't help it.
Well,
I'm just like this.
It's one of those things that like I really only knew because of like I played Dungeons and Dragons and I've been in mythology and I was a social studies teacher. There's some things that like helped me along.
That's why we assigned you the job of the deep dives.
But that's all I really have. I wanted to do something short and sweet, but also like comprehensive.
Yeah, very cool.
We now also know everything about shades.
Yes.
So if they come up again, we know everything that is written about them.
Yes.
That's not in the next 3 books in the thing, but are in the other supplements. And I didn't hate any of that. And that is why we go to what the haters say, because they hate.
Actually, you should do your research, Have you even read it? How you pronounce it?
What are the haters saying?
There is an index in the back, right?
This is a really derivative.
Copycat.
So you can hate stuff.
Yes.
You want to start to hate stuff now.
I just want to embody it for a second.
Much like a shade. The spirit of hate is deep in your veins.
Running through me.
Yes, the black swirling.
Let the hate run through me.
Oh, God.
The last few chapters bring out a lot of haters.
Yeah.
But it's the end, and I enjoyed the book, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about it this week.
So fuck them.
Yeah, so fuck right off. But I will
kidding.
go over.
We love you still, haters. We just think you're misguided.
We just want to help
Come
you.
home.
So I was going to go over a couple very specific, very quick points. So here we go. The first is about the elves and what we learn about them and how they are hiding. Most haters at this point will point out that Galbatorix defeated all of the dragon riders. Why the heck does he not find and kill all the elves? Why are they allowed to live and stay hiding, supplying the Varden and guarding Saphir's old egg? To this I say, because they don't do anything but fund an organization that literally hasn't been much of a problem for Galbatorix for like 100 years.
Yeah.
Why would he? They almost lost. I mean,
yes. Why would he go out of his way to like sustain heavy losses? Like send he doesn't have 13 Forsworn at his behest anymore. He does not have any other dragons. He has humans and Urgles.
Yeah.
And
And I bet his lazy boy's comfy. I bet he's like real locked in there.
Yeah, I mean, if I were Gal, I'm certainly not doing like a war of aggression against like the magical super soldier race. That seems like a bad idea. Plus, I think they do say in a little bit of an actual like from the text defense of this, they definitely say that like nobody knows where the elves are in Dewald and Varden. I think when they pick up Arya, they say she's the first elf who's been captured, who there's even been like a possibility of torturing for information, and she didn't give up shit because
she didn't break.
A baller.
Yes.
And other than that, like you could wander that forest for ages and eons. And
I mean, and by this logic, I mean, it never ends, right? Why isn't the empire larger? Why is the whole world why isn't the whole world
yes,
his?
that's a good point.
Why didn't he make the dragons hatch? Why? I mean, like, it's okay, cool.
Wait.
Yeah.
So you're telling me the one person in this universe who hasn't buckled to the pressures of endless expansionist imperialism is the insane genociding murder wizard.
I'm just saying, he's not that bad.
I mean, that's a little sus. I don't know. I think, I guess to that extent, maybe I could believe that he should have been expanding his borders all this time.
Yeah.
He does seem like he sucks.
To that I say, I roll. Second, they bring up the dwarfs. There are several things here they mention, like the tunnels under the city. They don't lead anything, not really making much sense, as people that would do that are crazy. The fact that there are above ground cities and below ground cities, and there's no clear reason why this culture of people lives in either place. Finally, and most importantly, they bring up the hate between the dwarfs and dragons. Dwarfs had a long-standing anger towards dragons and never really let them police their lands, but also have dragon holds for the riders. This seems like a really nice treatment. Why do that? To this I say, because it's their own chance of defeating Galbatorix.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think that makes sense.
Like, I don't understand.
Easy answer.
It's an easy answer. I don't understand. Why do the Urgles invade instead of a siege, as the Varden is completely dependent on outside food and would be easy to siege? They talk that. That actually bothers me too, but you know what? The tunnels thing, like, I don't have an answer for, but I don't care about it. And
well, the tunnels, it's like, I think maybe for me, it kind of represents like the dwarves are an ancient ass race. And like, they just have spent so many years in these tunnels, like presumably they just forget that one exists that goes somewhere and then builds another one. You know what I mean? So like they'll lose track.
Well, people who say
no one ever said they were good cartographers, only good engineers.
Well, they always bring this up like no one would do that. There's no society on Earth that would do it. Just like, ugh. But the thing is like there are subways in LA completely covered right now.
Crazy.
They made those and they don't use those. It's almost as if I'm sorry. This gets me so mad. Well, like it's so pedantic at this point.
Yeah.
And it just is the spirit of it all kind of just gets removed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. I'm not into it. And then I think too, for me, on the point of the Urgles like sieging, because of the way the Dwarven city is set up, because they're obviously locked away.
Yes.
Then it kind of leads to this like, why wouldn't the Urgles have sieged? And it's like, okay, nobody ever said Durza was a good battle tactician. Like more bloodlust than brains, that guy. He's insane. Well, he's evil. Like, why would he just be innately good at strategy for battle? And he's leading a bunch of like bloodthirsty monsters, essentially.
Well, we also get several hints at why. One, I don't know how Durza was controlling all the Urgles, but I assume an entire army of mind control is difficult even for a shade.
That's true.
So
they're just going to sit outside the gates for months with Durza like sweating his balls off every minute of every day to keep the Urgles in place.
Yeah. Two, I bet Galbatorix and Durza, because Durza wants Eragon to work with him to take down Galbatorix, it sounded like. I bet neither one of those guys want Eragon getting any stronger or learning anything or getting away.
Yes.
So there's that. And then three, there's the basic idea that like Serda could come help.
Yeah.
Right? Presumably.
Yeah.
And the elves could come help.
Yes.
Presumably.
It's just like
easy
defenses here. I think,
it's just like, come on, man. So I don't want to end on a negative thing here. So what I'm going to say is, haters, it's me. It's Dane. Hey, we've had some tough talks. Right now, got a little angry, and I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve that. If you've stayed here and you hate the series or you've hated these hater sections, I just want you to know I'm sorry. And
you were brave for putting up with that. We're proud of you for sitting through it.
Good for you. All right. And I just want you to know if I change your mind on anything or if you feel better about anything, thanks. And if you don't, you can write me a really lengthy email and tell me how much I suck, and then we'll move on. But I just want to say thank you for being here. And I'm sorry that you feel the way you do.
That's fair.
Because
And
this is a good book.
if this didn't help you, if this is not enough for you,
Yeah.
we really don't have any more.
Can't put any more energy
the end
into
of the
this.
road for us. I will say to wrap up, okay, there's a couple like kooky things I want to do, a couple goofy things.
Okay,
if you
let's do
will.
it.
Okay. So I'm a little sad that we're at the end of the road. Obviously, it has been a fun book to jump back into.
Yeah.
And a fun project too, just like creatively to tackle with you. It's been a really good time.
Okay.
And I kind of want to do, before we leave, some like rapid fire top threes.
I'm ready.
Rapid fire meaning we can't be here for 2 hours while you explain your reasoning for all of these
I won't do
things,
that.
Dane.
I won't do that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly. Top 3 places.
Trondheim for sure.
Yes.
I love Carvajal. It just makes me feel good. Makes me feel like home.
Okay.
It reminds me of like opening this book for the first time.
Okay.
So I like that. And then I'm gonna say Hatterack Desert.
Hatterack Desert?
Well, because I like how much Saphira likes it.
Okay.
And I like the
Dark horse pick.
I like Murtagh and Eragon's journey, even though it gets stupid at the end. I like the Blade Bros.
Okay.
Your top 3s.
Okay, I could see that. So I am going in chronological order. You're welcome.
Okay. Okay.
Just kidding. I'm going Tierm. Very cool city. First big city. The way it's designed, very cool. I love having a rich friend. So meeting Jode was fun, even though his wife sucked. I'm going to go darkest horse.
Oh, no.
Pick. I'm going to go Drosleona.
Oh, really?
Okay. Only because the way it's described is so cool. Like I feel like I can easily see that place. Also, it's a beautiful lakeside like retreat. The
Lake
city,
Leona.
Yeah, the city is grubby as fuck, but the lake is like it's giving like south of France. It's giving like
people summer there.
Lake Como for sure.
Yeah.
So I could see that too. I like it. I think it's fun. And then of course, you have not been listening to this podcast if you don't think I'm picking Trondheim.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's the coolest place we've been so far. I love it so much.
It's pretty cool.
Yes, very fun. Okay. Can you pick out a top 3 Kevin's gonna Kev? Bean Farmer's gonna be goofy
3
moments.
of them?
Yes, only 3. Please limit yourself.
I think first one for me is the lie to Brahm.
Okay.
Because again, I like those early chapters. They remind me so much of being a kid. But I just love when Brahm like follows it up with another question.
It's literally the easiest thing in the world. Be like, oh, what was that guy's name again?
And Eragon legit is like, wait, what?
Like it's the first lie he's ever told in his life, and he's already fucked it up.
Yes. So that's
Love
my
it.
first one.
Okay.
Second one, I like the Drosleona scene where he goes into the cathedral.
Gets lured.
Yeah, that's pretty good for me.
Okay.
And then I would say probably 3. Oh, gosh, there's so many. So Kevin's gonna Kev. I think it's when it takes a week for him to realize he can talk to Arya. He's like, oh shoot.
That's right. My brain.
I can use my brain magic.
Yes.
I just love it. I love that.
Absolutely perfect.
Okay.
I think I'm going. Classic. Am I going blind? Not knowing he's crying.
Yes.
So iconic. Never forget. I think I'm gonna do like a magic hangover, pushing all 12 Urgles back.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
And I think, oh God,
It is tough, right?
I know there's so many good
Because how do you
ones.
parse them?
One for sure is his football spike after leaving the heist.
Oh
in
yeah,
Tier.
like the Breakfast Club, like
Yes.
fist
Just like
bump.
spiking the football too soon. It doesn't get him in trouble. It doesn't actually end badly, but I'm just like, dude.
Okay, one more. We'll do one more real quick.
One more top 3 or one more Kevin moment?
One more top 3.
Okay. Top 3
Best characters.
Okay. That's what I was gonna do.
You start.
Oh shit.
I'll give you.
I wasn't ready.
Okay.
No, I can do it. I can do
Okay,
it.
go for it.
Ajad's so hot. No notes.
I love it. He has like 2 scenes in this book, and you're like, I love it.
Could give a fuck. So hot. So
Okay.
cool. Brahm for sure.
Okay.
I love Brahm.
He's great.
Yeah, he he was perfect. He took care of our guy. He did his best, and
he
was taken too soon from us. And I'm gonna go Saphira. I think
that's
like
nice.
she's so fun. She's so alien to us. I really like the characterizations of her that like lean into the idea that like she doesn't know anything about humans, that she's her own brand of like self-confident and vicious, and like she's very fun. I love Saphira. How about you? Top three characters.
First one, Torkin brand. I'm just kidding. My first one is probably gonna be a surprise. I really like Jode.
Yes.
I think Jode's cool. He's got a mysterious background. He like brings his rapier.
Yeah.
You know,
his wife hates him.
Yeah, he's like struggling with like his business and his wife.
Yeah.
He's like incredibly relatable. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't know, times are tough, and she's just, oh gosh. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that was a very visual joke for the podcast. I was moving my hand up and down like
good,
a mouth.
and now you're explaining it. There's
it's
nothing
not
better
great.
than making a joke and then explaining the joke.
Yeah, it makes it funnier. Number two, obviously, I'm going to say the obvious one. It's Murtagh. Yes.
Okay.
He was born in the darkness, molded by it. You know what I mean? I just love him.
We know.
So the Murtagh for obvious reasons. And then I would say three, I could say Braum or Eragon. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go with a guy.
Savage that neither of us has picked Eragon.
No, well, because he's not,
on.
right? I'm not going to pick Saphira either.
No.
I think my third favorite character in this entire book is Auric.
What?
Yes, because when we meet him,
you mocked me for picking Ajahad.
He's in much more of this book than Ajahad. But what I would say is he is positive, happy, capable. He explains a lot of like the coolest place we've been to.
He's like kind and
generous,
funny, lighthearted. Like it's a bright spot.
But he's also not like a pushover. He like basically sets Eragon up when they first meet. I don't even remember this, for a question of like, do you want me to take up all the food to you up the staircase? He's not a pushover. He is still firmly a dwarf.
Yes.
I think that's pretty cool characterization. Yeah. So I'm going to say Auric as my third pick.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, top threes. Do you have any final parting thoughts? A famous problem you and I have is leaving a conversation alone. So
like if you have a guest, I want to say the origins real quick of Jacqui and me have always been in a fantasy together. But one of the things that we've always struggled with is late at night, we'll talk until one of us finally gives up and we'll go to bed. So
correct. Alcohol's never involved in this. Don't worry, dear listener. We never get drunk and stay up too late and just like yell about fantasy books. That'd be crazy.
Till like 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. And the thing that I've always loved, Jacqui, and I don't tell you this enough, is that like we love enough of the same stuff that like we can always talk about it.
Yes.
But I just find your interpretation of a lot of things and the things that you pick out and the characters that you see and the things, I don't know, even in the real world, when we talk about real world stuff, you just see things very differently than me, but it's never really, I mean, we can get a little rough in our conversations sometimes, but most of the time, 90% of the time, you're just really like, oh, that's interesting and inquisitive, and then explain to me your thoughts. And I've always loved it. It's made fantasy better for me. It's made reading books better for me. I love when you read a book, I'm reading a book. I just love talking about it with you. And so thank you. I think what I want to leave off on is like the reason I wanted to do this with you is you're my friend.
That's so nice.
Yeah. And like this has been super fun to do.
Yeah. That's probably the nicest thing you've ever said to me. I would totally, I feel like this is my catchphrase on this podcast at this point. I so agree.
You're like, cool, let's wrap it up.
I feel great.
Yeah.
No other notes. No, I think what I love too, in really the same way, I love that we've always shared these interests. It was always fun for me, like, in middle school and high school when we met. I think our families were so not into any of this stuff.
Yes.
So many of our friends were not. And like, even as kids, it's weird. You expect two adults maybe to like have a couple drinks, stay up way too late, but we were like 12.
Yes.
And at like family parties, our families are very close, in case anybody did not pick up on this.
Yes.
But like we'd spend like family holidays together and
vacations.
Like, vacations. And we'd just like, we'd be like at the river. People are wakeboarding and Dane and I are sitting like on the beach being like, well, now the next Eragon book is coming out soon. Do you think we should reread the
How quickly did you read Harry Potter 7?
Yes. Yeah. It was always like that. And we always, I think even when we were young, we were very interested in the bigger implications implications of this stuff. And I think what I love about you and reading books with you is that like you're very, very thoughtful about what this means for the real world. I mean, you're very interesting to talk to and well versed about so many real world issues. We also do this. We do this about many things, not just fantasy books, shockingly. Dear listener,
poor
like
Kevin's been
yes,
on
we
the other
talk
end of
about
this.
so much shit, but I always love getting your perspective because there's nothing that you fail to like really do your due diligence about, where like I think so many people find it easy to form an opinion like very quickly and stay wrong and strong about it, and you're never afraid to like change your mind, and you go so far out of your way to make sure if you have an opinion it's well founded, that like it makes sense, that it's doing like the most good for the most people. I think I just love to like watch your values come through when you like read and interpret things.
Thanks,
and then
man.
also I deeply need somebody to tell me like what the fuck is going on sometimes, because you have such like a deep and lifelong connection to so many of these elements. I think D&D brought so much of that to you. You've been so interested in it for so long. You're so obsessive and like read so much about it, just like me. Like so you have that whole knowledge base that I love reading fantasy with you, because I'm like, tell me about this thing, and then I just sit there for like an hour. And I'm like, great. No need to read any further on that. It's the best.
Well,
it's such a good life hack for me.
Well, it was a different time too. Like when we both got into fantasy, this is before Stranger Things, before Game of Thrones. You know, really it was just Harry Potter and Eragon for most people.
For like kids,
Yeah, and like Dragon and like Dungeons and Dragons wasn't popular. So yeah, we kind of like nerded out together. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So if you're like us and you've nerded out with us for 10 weeks, I guess, or 10 episodes, 10
what
hours.
What are you doing here?
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And you're one of our friends. Thanks for joining our podcast. I'm glad you were here. And on that note, thank you. We got the crowd.
Canned laughter. Yes, laugh track. We're very funny. Kevin thinks so.
And if that's you, thank you for listening. We'll be back in the next couple of weeks to start breaking down the sequel to Eragon Eldest.
Yes.
The journey never stops for us. Make sure to rate and review, especially at Apple Podcasts. Support us on Patreon if you'd like. And if you have any questions or just want to write to us about the podcast, maybe there's some haters out here who have some problems today, you can always email us at isthisjustfantasypod@gmail.com. And check out our social media at isthisjustfantasypod on TikTok or at justfantasypod on Insta and Twitter.
Yes, if you've made it through this much self-serious, like very, very sincere analysis of a children's book with two goofballs, we are so deeply appreciative that you're here. You're our people. There's no other good way to put it. And since clearly the same thing is wrong with you as is wrong with us, we also have some truly unhinged and goofy bonus content I think we want to release over the next couple weeks while we gear up to start Eldest. So make sure you're following this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media to make sure you're not missing that stuff when it comes out.
Yeah.
If you think this is goofy, buckle up.
Is this just fantasy? We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. Come on and listen to us next time. Find out what our deep dive will be. Thanks for catching our show.
Just cleaning my car, Shuriken, on a Saturday. I just love to bathe my beautiful baby.
Sir Gabatork, sir.
Oh, God.
My ever all-knowing, powerful, and loving giving liege, sir.
Okay. I'm warming up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes. Is my hair looking better?
All right.
Okay. That's good. That's good. That's
Yes.
good. Good
Yes.
improvement.
It is.
Well, I'm glad we're starting on this positive note today, sir. I know that your
Oh, get on with it.
I know your performance coach has really taught you about staying calm in the face of bad news. I would just like you to channel. Yes.
Yes, namaste.
So, you know the raid...
I killed a man named Namaste once. He screamed the whole time.
I would ask you to dwell upon those fond memories, sir.
Ah, yes.
So you know the raid that we initiated on Trondheim?
Yes. I imagine we won. Victorious, yes?
Interesting you should ask, sir.
Uh-huh.
The Shade Durza
Yes.
I know you nominated him to lead that charge.
He's my bestest spirit boy.
He was not really an effective siege commander, unfortunately, sir. Several of us lifelong military scholars did warn you of that.
You did. You brought up the schizophrenia.
Yes.
And I disagreed.
It does. It does seem as though he struck a bit too soon. Just a bit.
Oh.
He did not hold out the siege.
A little bit of a accident early on.
That is Durza. We've been talking about it for years.
Premature attackiation has been his problem.
Yes, that has been the rumor, and
Yes.
and it's proven to be true. And
He's a drippy boy. Continue.
just spit it out, spit it out, spit it out.
That's what she said.
He
Yes?
died. He died. He's dead. Eragon slew him. The Bean Boy slew him. And
Okay. I said tons of Ruggles under the ground.
well, see, the way Durza had
Yes.
animated his armies
Yes,
and
inspiring
driven
them. Yes.
Well, magically controlling them would be a better way to characterize what it was he did.
I could respect that.
And when he died, they
Oh God.
turned upon each other, as you could perhaps imagine in your all-knowing, all-powerful wisdom, my liege.
I don't like the tone, but I do appreciate the honesty. Okay. Well, okay. Well, what about I don't know. I really actually lost. When I get washing my car, I kind of lose it a little bit.
Yes, sir. That is understandable. The attack was as unsuccessful as an attack could be, I believe, and it seems as though we may not have an opportunity for a while.
We destroyed the tunnels, though. Yes. Yes. Didn't we?
Well, maybe some of them. It seems as though maybe the dwarves destroyed them themselves.
All right. Well, I have loved your service. I don't love your updates or memos. And Shuriken. Yes, boy. Good boy. Yes. Eat said man. Yes, it's Saturday.
I hate it when he's washing the car.